There are 38,000 homeless people, an estimate, in Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County. On any given night, there are up to 5,000 homeless people on the streets in Portland. One of the city's strategies to eliminate homelessness is to use to tear down the camps and replace them with boulders. Now, David and I visited a camp 5 months ago that must have had 50 people. And now there's a bunch of boulders there. The camp moved across the street. And it's Heather knows what I'm talking about. It's near her business. So our table topic is, there are many components to homelessness. What would you suggest as a possible suggestion? And I am going to start with Kate. Come on up. Help me welcome Kate. I appreciate you, Kate.
I did volunteer to be the first person going up for table topics today, and I didn't get a prompt for what the question was, so luckily I have a bit of experience helping combat the problem with homelessness. One of the things I see as something we can do to help, not necessarily with the moving the camps and everything, but a couple years ago I was traveling for work, my boss there in Arizona, and I was pretty down in the dumps with traveling and not being home very often, and just kind of depressed, and I had problems with my knees. I was working really hard, and Greg went to the grocery store, and he came back like 2 hours later. I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened to him? And he came back with all of these groceries, just like 2 full to the brim shopping carts of groceries. And he's like, I have a project for you. And the project was to make as many meals out of all the groceries that he got. And we ended up giving those out to the homeless that were in Arizona, in the city that we were staying in, because he knew that one of the things I loved to do was help feed the homeless and give them, you know, if I had leftovers or any snacks in the car, I was always like giving them out. So one of the things I like to do is help feed them. If you're giving them money, they can potentially, if they have another meal that they don't have to pay money for, then they can save that money to maybe help buy them clothes or housing or shelter that's, you know, more suitable for them. So that's one of the things that I like to do. So thank you.
I appreciate you, Kate. Help me welcome David near the aisle. Come on up, David. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Same question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Your strategy for alleviating homelessness.
About a year ago, I was reading an article in Mother Jones. I don't usually read Mother Jones a lot, but it talked about a program where instead of having people on a long list waiting to be approved for housing, they simply built the housing and put the worst case people in there. And what they found out was basically these people, worst case people who could not otherwise find a home, were on drugs, who had mental health issues, physical and mental disabilities, actually thrived. It wasn't always a matter of they got off the drugs quickly, and the mental health issues and other issues still need to be addressed, but giving them the home first, letting them know that this was not going to be taken away from them, letting them know that there would be at least some food available, made things a lot easier. My own proposal, and I know this is happening somewhat in different cities, is that this be done more often. And I recognize the challenges inherent in this simply by trying to find people who need to be going in there. But I used to work for the homeless. When I was younger, and I'm literally talking about 25 years ago, I just turned 50 this year, I worked for Sisters of the Road Cafe, and I worked for a long defunct group called Recovery Inn. If you see that huge, ugly, black building on Burnside, that was where Recovery Inn was. And my own feeling is, long story short, if you have the housing, they will come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you so much. And now for our final table topics, I would invite our dear friend, Angela Joy, to come on up. Help me welcome Angela Joy. Angela Joy, we appreciate you. We appreciate you, Angela Joy. Your strategy for alleviating homelessness.
Well, at this point, I don't think I have a full strategy for alleviating homelessness. It's a much bigger issue than I could come up with myself. It would take our entire community, our nation. But what my thoughts are on homelessness right now are, what can I do? And I appreciate that Bill shared with us some very simple ways to get started. I've served the homeless in this church for probably about, I think the program was here about 16 years and it's no longer here. So I'm looking for other opportunities to help. This was a homeless shelter and then a veterans shelter, and neither of those are happening now. So I might be able to help with this building to put it to use. Those are some thoughts that I've had recently anyway. I'm thankful for the topic that we had today and for those that shared, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank you all, and I sincerely hope that we can continue this dialogue after the meeting and possibly at brunch. Thank you all, and now our fabulous, excellent Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Wow. Empower, that's what we call this meeting, and we're really learning how we can continue to serve one another by being empowered.